Perhaps you should do a deal with Nigel Farage. He was
You are
sounded as
obsessed
though
with
he
Nigel
was open.
Farage.
Well, he sounded as though he was open to some sort of a deal. Isn't that something that you should perhaps consider?
So I actually really feel there are only two people who are going to be prime minister, and neither of them are Nigel Farage, because we know that Starmer would be the person who would be there if it's not the current prime minister, and he's going to be doing absolutely the opposite to the things you want to see happening in this country. If you are interested in things like crushing those criminal gangs, so look, very very simple. We have a party which is open to all, but it's not open to people who belong to a different party.
Grant Shapps, thanks very much for joining us. We are now recording. What was your first thought when you heard that Nigel Farage is standing and leading reform?
Well, look, we've all been here before, and we won elections with him there before as well. I'm very much reminded of 2015 when I was party chairman, and the absolute key point is if people want to see the sort of changes that we need to see in this country, including on things that Reform always say they care about, like illegal migration, then the last thing in the world we can afford to do in this country is elect a Starmer Labour government, because they will
But
quite
the
literally
political
do the opposite.
landscape, Grant, is very, very different, isn't it, from 2015? We've got another opinion poll out today. This suggests that Labour is on track for its biggest ever election victory. And clearly, Nigel Farage leading reform is going to make it even harder for the Conservatives, isn't it?
Well, I think that history is littered, if you don't mind me saying, with commentators, even very well informed ones, predicting elections before voters have actually cast a single ballot. And so I would be very, very wary of some of these extrapolations. Of course, it's entirely up to the voters what they do. But in the end, if voters are concerned, which I believe they are, about things like criminal gangs bringing people across the channel, or, for example, today our nuclear deterrent, where Starmer says he'll support it, but actually it turns out that his last three shadow foreign secretaries have all voted against, and tonight the deputy prime minister Angela Rayner saying that she hasn't changed her mind, she's against Trident. Well, actually, when people get to the ballot box and they think about these things, they realise what's required is a clear plan and some bold action, and that's the sort of security that are going there to the plans about our defence bring
But
us.
Nigel
Whereas,
Farage is a renowned campaigner. He's somebody who reaches out to voters who we know are pretty disillusioned at the moment, who have got two leaders vying to be the next prime minister, neither of whom seem to be creating a huge amount of excitement. And Nigel Farage is going to capture a lot of those floating voters, going to make it even harder for you in those red wall seats, isn't he? I mean, what are you going to say to voters?
I've no doubt that Farage will capture some Labour voters, and actually we always found with UKIP, that far more than were ever predicted actually came from the Labour side. But what I say is very simple: if you care about things like our migration system working properly, the problem has been the 136 times that Keir Starmer has ordered the Labour Party to vote against the measures that we were taking to stop those criminal gangs. Now we finally got those laws through. If you want to overturn all of that, and ditto with all the sorts of machinations we've been through to get to a position after Brexit, where we're able to get on with trading with Europe, but not having to be constantly applying their rules and the rest of it.
But I'm talking
And the
about the
fastest.
flip from
Let
reform
me
and
just. Sorry, I haven't.
the appeal that there will be to voters in
Yeah.
places like those red wall seats who will see somebody like Nigel Farage, who is offering more radical solutions on
Well,
things like migration, who's
forgive me.
talking about pulling out of the ECHR and so on.
But forgive me for the second time. You've stopped me before I've made the main point, which is if you care about those types of things, then the worst thing that could possibly happen would be a Starmer Labour government. A vote for reform would actually be a vote for Starmer to have a large majority to scrap all the things you care about, like the enforcement of the preventing the channel things with the Rwanda program, like things including security that I just outlined So actually, this would go against everything that you actually want to happen. So it would be a strange way for this to proceed. And as I say, actually, the history is very mixed on these things, and you see Reform taking votes from Labour as well.
That latest opinion poll, which is a very detailed one, as I'm sure you're aware, suggests that the Conservatives are on course to lose many, many seats, including your own. Are you worried about that?
Well, look, of course, I'll fight for every single vote. But by the way, it's all very well quoting a an opinion poll, no matter how large it is, and then conveniently forgetting that less than a month ago there was a vote in my constituency that would have most likely had me returned as the member of parliament in real votes. So, of course, I'll fight for every vote because I believe that we've actually got a plan for this country. I think we actually are the ones prepared to set out our bold plan. And if you look at what the only other person who's going to be prime minister if it's not the current prime minister Rishi Sunak. The only other person is Keir Starmer. So let's get that absolutely clear in our minds. And if you look at what Keir Starmer does and says, he stands on the sidelines. He snipes about absolutely everything. I've never heard him actually tell us at all what he plans to do, even now, 10 days into the selection. I'm none the clearer than I was before it started, except he said today that he'd go out, be solid on defence and trident. And this evening, his deputy prime minister, Angela Rayner, who perhaps really is running the show, says that she has not changed her mind and she's voted against trident before. Well, that is what you're
Labour
going to
are
get this
trampling
time.
all over Tory territory, aren't they? And winning over many of your traditional supporters.
Look, I can see you're very excited about all of this. As I said very clearly, a vote for reform simply helps Starmer to do exactly the opposite things that you would want to see happen in this country. And as I pointed out before as well, I have been on many, many interviews over the years where the commentators have told me with absolute certainty that, Theresa May would win a big majority in 2017. And in fact, we lost it. That people would vote to remain when in fact they voted to Brexit. And back in 2015, when I was party chairman, it was impossible, I was told, for Conservatives to win an overall majority, and we won an overall majority. In other words, I don't think it's wise ever to second guess voters. It doesn't matter how large the opinion poll is. Actually, it's much better to look at actual votes, as I do when I look at my own constituency. Real votes that were cast here last month tell a different story, and I suspect the same picture is perhaps true in other places as well.
Perhaps you should do a deal with Nigel Farage. He was
You
sounded
are
as
obsessed
though
with
he
Nigel
was open.
Farage.
Well, he sounded as though he was open to some sort of a deal. Isn't that something that you should perhaps consider?
So I actually really feel there are only two people who are going to be prime minister, and neither of them are Nigel Farage, because we know that Starmer would be the person who would be there if it's not the current prime minister, and he's going to be doing absolutely the opposite to the things you want to see happening in this country. If you are interested in things like crushing those criminal gangs, so look, very very simple. We have a party which is open to all, but it's not open to people who belong to a different party.
What
So
about
it's
a
a pretty
deal then with
approach.
reform?
Sorry, say again.
What about the idea of a deal with Nigel Farage, a deal with reform?
No, we're not going to have deals. We're in the election campaign itself now, and we are presenting very very clear program to the country. And I think actually, whatever you think, it is true to say. I think when people heard our original slogan for this election was to say that we had a clear plan, which was bold and provided security. No one can argue that our plans are not bold, and we'll be presenting those plans to the public and inviting people to have their say. And not to sound too much like a politician, but the only poll that matters is still more than a month away, and people, I think, will be able to see a very clear distinction between us and Keir Starmer, who says he's changed the Labour Party, but it turns out his deputy prime minister says they haven't changed.
How
And they
crucial is the
disagree with
debate
us.
tomorrow night? Is it a key opportunity for Rishi Sunak?
Oh, absolutely. I think these TV debates always provide a great opportunity for leaders to really sort of set out their platform. One thing is going to be very obvious tomorrow. If you think about the election so far, I can think of a series of announcements off the top of my head, including a triple lock plus for pensioners, where we'll make sure that tax rate, the personal tax goes up faster than the state pension, or, for example, our plans on that's national service, national citizen service. These are plans that people can recall. I actually can't recall a single thing Starmer has told us he'll do, apart from today when he claims he'll be strong on defence, only for his shadow deputy prime minister, to come out and contradict him.